Welcome back to the Misperception Podcast. I'm your host, Destiny, and thank you for coming back to the fourth episode of the Misperception Podcast. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend if you care. And if this video does help you any, please just leave a comment down below. I'm looking for feedback. I'm looking for this channel to grow and reach who it needs to reach. So don't be shy. I do not bite. If you haven't seen any of my episodes already, there are 1, 2, and 3 episodes listed discussing faith, isolation, purpose itself, what is that, and understanding what divine and assigned purpose is. We're still on the Living on Purpose series, and this specific episode is going to focus on the lesson. What is the purpose of a lesson? So every season has a lesson attached to it. So every season has a lesson attached to it. The reason why we have lessons to begin with is so that we can spiritually mature in specific areas so that we can live a life on purpose. And there's a saying, if you are the same person that you were at 25, now that you're 35, you just wasted 10 years of your life. I'm thinking about those people specifically who have been stuck in their ways. They're the people who don't really like to receive feedback, who can't accept constructive criticism, who can't even receive advice when it's given to them, right? I'm thinking about those people who just be like, oh, that's just the way I am. All of those tendencies have never been a flex. They've never been a flex. We see those same people wondering why they are still attracting and choosing bad partnership, bad company, right? We see those people still having the same recurrent arguments with in their relationships, in their marriages. And they're wondering why things ain't changing. How am I still choosing the same partners? Why am I still attracting the same partnership? Oh, we still on this argument for 3 years ago? It's because people don't extract their lesson. And for many of us, we know the lesson already. We know the lesson, but we refuse to accept it. And I'm not judging anybody. I understand why people reject lessons initially, right? Earlier in my spiritual journey, God called me to a season of singleness while I was still in a committed relationship. He called me to a season of singleness. And I flat out said no. I said, don't you remember the person that I'm dating right now is the one that I prayed for? This is the person that you sent. This relationship is happy, it's good, it's a good man. I'm okay. The answer is no. I'm not doing that. Right? And after God asked that of me, I'm so shocked by the matter that he would request something like that after I refused it, I said, I'm gonna go ahead and ignore God. I don't even want to talk no more. I have an attitude. But the thing about it, you can't technically ignore God, but God can't stop speaking to you. And you'll believe that you're ignoring him. That was the situation that I had. God stopped speaking to me. And I didn't realize that he wasn't speaking to me because I also wasn't speaking, praying and sending words out to him, because at this point, I don't want to hear that. And two things can happen when you refuse to accept a lesson from God. And the first one, which is the most well-known one, is God would just allow you to repeat that season. You go through that again. That's why sometimes you can be in partnership with the same person and it's a whole different, they look different, but this is the same person. You have the same arguments, you have the same issue, because you are recycling and attracting that same spirit, just in a different body, right? So you get through a repeated season. If you do not learn the lesson, you go through the season again. The second one, and the most diabolical in my personal opinion, right, is God is going to take away his presence. God's going to take away his peace. He's going to take away his support. And he's going to leave you with the rest. He's going to leave you with the consequences. Since you want it so bad, have it. But I'm going to go ahead and head out. Right? So I had number 2, y'all. And initially I didn't feel his withdrawal. But gradually things began to shift. Things began to get outside of the norm for us. And I started back in prayer when things, because I couldn't control it anymore. I couldn't guide it back to where it was, and neither could my partner at the time. So now I'm back in prayer. I'm in prayer. I'm like, God, can you fix this? I'm sorry for ignoring you. I was just in my feelings. Like, I'm trying to tell God what happened so that he can put his hands back on it, y'all. And I'm met with silence. I'm like, cool, I probably deserve that. Okay. And I stayed steady. I would go and I would pray. But things kept making a turn, right? And I'm becoming very uncomfortable in the space that I am in with the absence of God. So now I'm in deep prayer. And God is still not answering me. I'm practically begging God to speak to me. This is the first time since my healing journey started that God didn't speak back or answer me or send me a sign. It was nothing. And I got a tip for anybody that feels like God isn't answering their prayers. Remember the last thing that he told you to do. And if you cannot remember the last thing that God told you to do, you can ask God, I'm sorry, I don't remember the last instruction you gave me. Can you remind me? And you will hear back from God. He don't mind reminding you, but he ain't going to tell you many times to keep doing the same things because honestly, you heard him the first time. He didn't want to do it. So I'm deep in prayer one day and I'm frustrated. I'm angry, and God get the rawness of my emotions. I don't sugarcoat with God. That's not how we built our relationship. So in the midst of me feeling very frustrated by, one, he's silent, and two, the nature of the relationship right now, I say to him, I pray for him. You sent him to me. You said he was mine. And immediately I got an answer. God said, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And at this point, I heard you, but I'm confused. You did. There's a logic to this. If I pray for something and then you deliver that something, then I receive that something and I thank you for that something, then that's mine. That was that's how we were taught, honestly. Nobody ever told us that God can request things back from you. Nobody ever said that. And I couldn't understand why he would request that from me. And so he said, I didn't say that. I never said he was yours. That's the only thing he said right before he went silent. So now I'm resonating on it. Right? And when I realized God don't assign people to you, he only align you. He align you for a specific amount of time. And when it's time to let go, you truly have to, right? People aren't possessions. We cannot own them. Just because God gifted us this experience doesn't mean we own who we are experiencing. And we have a tendency as humans to attach to things and people, right? This is my podcast. This is my bookshelf, my apartment. But the truth is, we don't belong to anybody other than our Creator. And when I realized that, I knew exactly what I had to do. So, despite the fact that I understand that we cling, right? We cling naturally. It's in our nature. God even understands how we cling. But what happens when that habit separates you from God, right? Think about habits that you are holding in your life that you are allowing to separate you from God. So I walk into the living room and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, he's not mine to own. He's not mine to own. So in love and teary eyed, I'm whispering at this point, y'all. I'm whispering. I'm like you know, God said, oh, and that's another thing that I do. When I first went on my healing journey, y'all, and God taught me that when things are too heavy for you, that means you're not supposed to carry it on your own. That's an indicator that you need my help, right? And that was heavy for me. So I go to my partner and I'm like, God said, we got to separate. I got to go in this singleness season. And that was so tough because nothing was wrong, y'all. He didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Nothing was wrong. So I want y'all to pause right here. Leave in the comments. What do you think my lesson was? And I'm going to give you a second. You can pause it. But what do you think my lesson was hearing everything that I already said? So if you chose disobedience, I'm not surprised that you chose that. But my lesson was never about disobedience. My lesson, and it's such a beautiful one, my lesson was about choosing God, even when I had other good and great options. My first encounter with God, my relationship that I built with God was when I hit my version of rock bottom. Right? I defaulted to God. I didn't have another option. I'm like, if you go back to my first episode, I said, fix me. I ain't got nothing else. I defaulted to God as a broken, unhealed, just depressed woman. God got me to a place where I'm happy, where I'm healed, I'm secure, I'm comfortable, I'm flourishing. And then he requested something from me, right? He said, now that I got you in this space, would you choose me even when you have other great options? Do you choose God when you have a good option, a great one? Or do you choose God, right? And a lot of people that we experience will accept good. Some people be even striving for great, and then other people are striving for godly. That was the choice for me, right? And I remember standing in the midst of it, looking left, like, that's good. I can do some things over here, and looking right, like, whew, you don't even know what God finna do. That's the other thing, and we get fearful of the unknown. We don't even know what the good Lord about to do, but we know this is comfortable. I've grown here. This supports me. This makes me laugh. This isn't scary. What happens when God delivers his promise to you and then he requests for it back? You didn't have to do anything wrong. He said, give it back. For me, that was one of the hardest pills I had to swallow. And it took me a great amount of time to digest it. I could not understand why at that moment, why that was being requested from me. It got all the way to the point where I'm like, did I do something? Am I not treating this person right? Did I receive a blessing from God and I mistreated some type of way? And I'm starting to put the blame on me because I didn't had it for years. And it was in the moment of me trying to condemn myself and figure out what I had done right that God whispered to me. He said, I intend for this singleness season to bring so much out of you that's just not possible while you're in partnership. You can't do it in partnership. You have to be in your singleness season for it. And now that I've been in this singleness season for a while, y'all, I fully grasp what those things were. Like, I fully understand why I couldn't receive what I received here when I was there. It had nothing to do with the relationship that I was in and how good or great it was. It had nothing to do with it. It had everything to do with what God has for destiny, right? Because unionship involves two. Singleness season involves just you. And sometimes the work that God and the plan that God has for you, He got to just be able to touch you, right? So that's what I had done. And what I was getting at is that I did receive what I need to, I'm still receiving what I need to receive out of this season. But there are two types of lessons. You have seasonal lessons, and that's the lesson that you go through a season, and once that you extract the lesson, once that season over, you go through another one. You extract the lesson, once that season over, and you know the gist. It goes like that. But then you have lifelong lessons. And I think of this one as like more profound, complex lessons that you won't be able to understand just with a single season. So instead, what God does is He allow you to collect the pieces as you go through seasons. You collect a little piece until you are able to understand the full picture and the fullness of what your lifelong lesson is. For me, this singleness season was an extension of my lifelong lesson of self-love. Since my healing journey started, God has been showing me, Destiny, take care of yourself. Destiny, make sure you love and know yourself, making sure you protect yourself, making sure you just, you're putting yourself first, right? And not to the brink of selfishness. And so I see that now that I'm here. You think of self-love as like the boundaries that we learn to establish, right? Or we think of that as don't people please, that's not good. Or don't overexert yourself. We think of things like that when it comes to self-love. And yes, those things are great. But self-love, when it comes to me, as a spiritually inclined, gifted, protected woman in the 21st century, my self-love is my spiritual armor. And my spiritual armor is as defensive it's as strong as my self-love is for myself. So that's what I've learned here. And I learned to curate it and make it to a point to where I'm selective, but also open just enough and vulnerable just enough to receive what I need to. So we are approaching the end of this episode, and this has been a lovely, lovely, lovely segment. But if you don't take anything that I had said from this video, if you don't take anything, just remember that life is a combination of lessons. So learn your lesson. And your hardest season, just extract the lesson. You don't have to repeat it. Extract the lesson. Look for the lesson. Seek the lesson. Right? It's for you. It's for your good. Do not allow yourself to sit in a place of suffering or comfort when you're intended to grow, when God is calling you to grow. Don't fall for that. God is good. We are at the end of this video, and this is going to be I think this is our favorite part, the quote of the day. Let me know if you would like for me to start adding the quote of the day in the beginning of the podcast, or are y'all content with it being at the end? I love it as a closer, but I do want to listen to my viewers, and I'm ready to start getting y'all engaged. So let me know. So we're getting to the quote of the day, and it reads, "You cannot protect yourself from sadness without protecting yourself from happiness." And I'll say that again. You cannot protect yourself from sadness without also protecting yourself from happiness. And this one is such a powerful but simplistic quote because I learned that in this season as well. That was another lesson that I learned in this season. When many of us got hurt, got betrayed, somebody failed us, somebody just didn't make the cut, we kept building this wall, right? We kept building this wall. And in this wall, we put ourselves in the inside so that we can protect ourselves. And we put the enemies and anybody else that served as a threat to our safety on the outside, right? And we shielded ourselves. The thing about doing that, though, when you shield yourself for too long, this confined place that you built for your protection becomes your prison. You don't know how to get out either. You don't know how to let nobody in, and you don't know how to get out, especially when you stayed in there a specific amount of time. This season of singleness for me reminded me where I hid my key. It reminded me where I hid my key. So now, not only have I perfected my spiritual armor, not only have I healed and got God right beside me, walking through doors before me, I have the key. So if I want to leave, I can. But I also can be selective with who I let in. Because you grow. You grow with letting people in to assist you. You got blind spots. You cannot be afraid to be sad or hurt, because you will miss out on the joys and the happiness and the love of life. Until next time, thank you for watching the Misperception Podcast. I'm your host, Destiny. Send this to a friend, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.